Stop everything. The thing that hides your power has been living inside you all along. Are you tired of feeling stuck, like something is holding you back from your full potential? Imagine a life where your anxieties transform into courage and your insecurities become strengths. What if I told you the doorway to that life is not out there? It lives in the places you refuse to look. Today, we speak of shadow work, integrating your hidden strengths as if it were an ancient map rediscovered beneath modern noise. In an age of screens and quick fixes, we forget that the psyche keeps treasures in the dark. Science can measure brainwaves, and mystics can speak of the third eye, but both whisper the same question: who will meet the parts of you you've exiled? That question matters now more than ever, because unhealed shadows leak energy, repeat patterns, and stealthily steer relationships, careers, and creativity. Picture your inner world as a house with a locked cellar. You've been living only in the sunlit rooms, wondering why the house feels incomplete. Shadow work invites you to open that cellar, carry a lantern, and greet the figures who live there. They are not enemies. They are displaced allies. Anger that can protect, fear that can inform, jealousy that can reveal longing. When integrated, these hidden parts become unexpected fuel. A trembling voice becomes a courageous boundary. A chronic doubt becomes meticulous discernment. A repressed grief becomes a deep well of compassion. Stay with me through this journey, and you will unlock a practical, soul-deep key. A practice that will begin to shift your energy, awaken perception, and activate dormant strengths. If you feel this call, subscribe, like, and share what you hope to reclaim below. Say quietly now, I choose to awaken my consciousness. There are secrets and enigmas ahead. But first, ask yourself, what part of you are you most afraid to meet? Embracing authenticity. Have you ever felt a small, guarded voice tucked behind your bravest choices, quietly altering the way you show up? That voice is the messenger of the parts you've hidden, not enemies to defeat, but relatives at a family table you refuse to invite. Shadow work begins when you open the door to that table and let those estranged relatives tell their stories. Imagine your inner life as a house with rooms you live in daily and an attic where memories, shame, and secret longings gather dust. For a long time, you may have convinced yourself the attic is dangerous, that opening it will release monsters. The truth, tender and surprising, is that the attic holds forgotten tools, a childhood courage, a fierce tenderness, a rhythm of creativity that you abandoned when safety felt scarce. Integrating shadow is the practice of bringing those tools downstairs, cleaning them, and learning how to use them with compassion. When you stop pretending you are only the polished self the world applauds, you create space for raw, honest expression. That awkward anger that once made you shrink can become a clear boundary that preserves your energy. The jealous flicker that felt shameful can be translated into a map that shows where your longing actually points, a path toward what you truly desire. This alchemy turns what you judged into fuel for authenticity. There is a quiet, scientific echo to this. Parts of the brain that process threat and reward are intimately tied to memory and habit. When you name and befriend a buried fear, the nervous system can relax. New neural pathways form. Yet this is not only biology, it is initiation. As you welcome those shadows, your inner landscape rearranges itself. Your expressions become fewer and truer. Your voice takes on a resonance that vibrates with integrity rather than performance. Here's the twist that most seekers miss. The qualities you hide are often the very strengths you need to become whole. The stubbornness you chastise may be the perseverance that builds your masterpiece. The sensitivity you mute to survive may be the antenna that receives subtle guidance. The same channel that opens intuition and refines inner vision. Integration is not about fixing or erasing. It's about reassigning roles. What was exiled becomes a trusted ally. Begin simply. Listen without judgment. Speak to that inner part as you would to a wounded friend. Allow its small steps into the light through creative expression, movement, or gentle confession in a journal. Notice how your posture, your gaze, your rhythms change as you practice this companionship. You will find a new honesty that does not seek permission to exist. Hold this image like a quiet lighthouse. Every reclaimed fragment of you casts light outward. How would your life alter if you stopped hiding your edges and let them contour your true face? Enhanced relationships. Have you ever wondered why certain people activate something raw in you? Why a single remark can make you feel small, enraged, or unbearably lonely, as if history were repeating itself in one sentence? These moments are not accidents. They are invitations. When someone presses a button inside you, they are touching an unintegrated part of your psyche, an echo of a wound that has never been fully seen. In the language of the soul, your shadow lives in those reactions, and relationships become the theater where it asks to be acknowledged. Imagine each person you meet as a mirror that sometimes holds up a cracked reflection. At first, you recoil from the jagged edges and call it otherness. They're unreasonable, they're needy, they hurt me. But beneath that story is a simpler truth. The jaggedness in them awakens similar jaggedness in you. Psychology names this projection. Neuroscience, in a poetic echo, tells us that mirror neurons light up when we recognize ourselves in another. You literally feel the other's inner state as if it were your own. This is not a liability. It is a hidden faculty for deep empathy and honest intimacy, waiting to be trained. The twist is this: what we often fear losing in relationships, the power to be safe, admired, or independent, is exactly what grows when we meet our shadow. When you can hold your own fear, anger, or shame without flinging it outward, you stop using others as emotional punching bags. The dance of blame softens into a dialogue. Your partner, friend, or child no longer has to fix you or hide from you. They can meet a whole person. In that wholeness, connection deepens and trust blooms, not from perfection, but from witnessed imperfection. There is a subtle practice that reshapes this alchemy. When triggered, pause and breathe, as if the breath itself were a lighthouse guiding you home. Notice the physical sensation, tightness, heat, sinking, and name it silently. Ask yourself where this feeling learned its voice. Offer a small, true phrase inwardly. I felt this before. Let curiosity, not accusation, be the lens. Then imagine turning toward the person rather than away, carrying that felt peace like a lantern. Speak from what is alive inside you, not from the script of old wounds. This is integration in motion. You reclaim your story and bring more of your real self into relationship. As you practice, you'll find that conflicts shrink, not because problems vanish, but because your capacity to hold them expands. What once pushed you apart now becomes the door to greater compassion, depth, and mutual transformation. Picture sitting across someone you love, watching your old reflexes soften, and feeling an intimacy that is steadier than need. What is the person who once triggered you could become the key that opens the hidden chamber of your heart? What would you find there? Unleashing your full potential. Neuroscience now whispers what sages have always known. What you exile from your light often carries the raw material of your greatest gifts. Imagine a locked instrument in a silent room, muffled, untouched, its strings vibrating with possibilities you cannot hear until you open the door. Your shadow is that room. Hidden there are impulses, yearnings, fierce energies, and forgotten skills that once welcomed refashion themselves into power. This is not about forcing perfection or polishing a new persona. It is a subtler alchemy. When you gently turn toward a rejected part of yourself, the anger you were taught to hide, the ambition you shamed, the blunt honesty you masked as rudeness, you begin to recognize its deeper function. Anger can become decisive boundary setting, ambition a focused creative flame, bluntness the clarity that saves relationships from slow erosion. The twist is simple and profound. The traits that frightened you were often the very tools you needed to cross the thresholds you've avoided. Begin with curiosity rather than crusade. Sit with a memory that still tightens your chest and ask, as if to a small child, "What were you trying to do for me?" You will often discover protective intelligence, a strategy learned under duress that later feels outdated. Thank it, rename it, gift it new responsibility. This shifts the neural script. The brain no longer needs to defend a disowned piece, so energy is freed to reroute toward growth. Practical steps, tenderly applied, unleash these dormant capacities. Invite the feeling to speak through movement, a grounded stomp to claim firmness, a steady breath and a loud, honest sentence to own truth. Create micro-experiments. Behave as if that reclaimed strength is already yours for 5 minutes a day. Notice what changes in posture, voice, and the people around you. Keep a journal of small victories. The habit of remembering rewires identity. There is also a communal current here. When you integrate a buried gift, you alter the magnetic field of your relationships. You draw collaborators, mirrors, and challenges that match the new frequency. Your life expands less through external acquisition and more through internal reclamation. If a hidden strength has been waiting for your permission, what would the very first act look like should you finally claim it? You made it, and that deserves recognition. Today, you stepped into a quieter kind of bravery, the courage to look where most of us avert our gaze. That willingness marks you as chosen by your own soul, not because you're special in some distant way, but because you answered a quiet, insistent call to become whole. Celebrate that. Breathe into it. Let the small, steady victory of simply showing up settle in your chest. What you practiced here is not performance, it's reclamation. The aspects you once buried are not faults to exile, but hidden economies of power, subterranean rivers that, when rerouted into your conscious life, irrigate gifts you forgot you had. You will notice this in tiny, honest ways. A boundary spoken without guilt, a truth shared with someone you love, a long-held longing that finally becomes action. These are the first visible signs of integration, and they matter more than dramatic revelations. If this message touched you, offer me a sign. Drop a yes in the comments so I see your heartbeat. Share one small truth you uncovered, even a single word, and we'll feed the field of our community. If you want deeper practices and live exchanges, tell me what form that should take. Guided meditations, live circles, or a written workbook. Your voice shapes what comes next. Like and subscribe if this path calls to you. It helps these teachings find the ones who need them most. You are not merely watching a video. You are joining a living circle. Here, we honor shadow as a teacher, not an enemy. We hold one another when old stories surface, and cheer when a new, truer story starts to breathe. Remember, community is a spiritual instrument. When one person heals, the resonance helps others remember their tune. So lean in, share your experience, and when you're ready, reach out to someone in this tribe who may be walking a similar way. Carry this closing gift with you, a simple affirmation you can whisper anytime you feel small. I integrate what I feared and make it wise. Say it aloud now if you can. Keep shining your light. Remain present, breathe, and absorb this energy in gratitude.